the face of the Iranian regime is dead. Khamenei killed in broad daylight. A death that triggers celebrations as well as protests. Russia-China condemn US-Israeli operation. While the Gulf nations hit back at Iran's retaliatory strikes. Khamenei is killed, and that's a top focus on India today.
Big story coming in. The United States and Israel have intensified their airstrikes and missile strikes deep inside Iran. Latest coming in, former Iranian President Ahmadinejad has been killed in a US-Israel strike. Mahmoud Ahmadinejad served as the 6th president of Iran. He was the president of Iran between 2005 and 2013, and this was the time that Mahmoud Ahmadinejad became the very public face of Iran's nuclear program and Tehran's defiance of the West. He was seen as a very strong confrontational leader who took on not just Israel but also the United States of America. He spoke of a world without Zionist forces. He spoke of a world where Iran would ensure that Jerusalem was no longer occupied, and that was seen as a very, very controversial statement made by Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. But word just coming in, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, who incidentally was apparently under some kind of a house arrest. He wasn't out in the public. He and a large number of his advisors and security personnel were killed in a precision strike at the place where he had been kept. So it isn't just the supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who was killed. The defense minister, Nazirzadeh, he was killed. The head of IRGC, Mahmoud Pakpur, he was killed. The head of the army, Jal Musawi, he was killed. The head of intelligence agencies, he was killed, and several others. So 40 top leaders were killed, as was Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. That's the word that is just coming in from that's the word that's coming in from Iran just now. Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, who served as the 6th president of Iran between 2005 and 2013. More than 1,000 missiles have been fired in the past 24 hours by the United States and by Israel deep inside Iran. Targeted attacks not just in Tehran but also in Qum, which is a very sensitive religious political center, also in Isfahan, in Fordo, in Natanz, and several other parts. There were reports that said even Bandar Abbas, the crucial military port and a very crucial trade port, was also targeted in precision strikes. We are told that the next wave of precision strikes on Iran will take place anytime now. I want to quickly bring in India Today's Sandeep Unnithan into this conversation. Foreign Affairs editor Geeta Mohan also joins us. Geeta, what more do we know? Mahmoud Ahmadinejad has also been killed, according to reports that are just coming in.
Well, that's right, Gaurav. That's big news coming in. Former Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, who is a very, very important, was a key leader in Iran, very close to the supreme leader as well. In the past, has been killed. He was killed on Saturday in the strikes that were carried out, and we do not know exactly which area, but the place that was struck where he was killed, his close aides, his bodyguards, all of them have been announced dead. So yet another critical player, an important stakeholder in Iran now is dead, announced dead. So there's a confirmation that's come in from Iran that Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, the former president of Iran, is in fact or has in fact been killed.
Sandeep, the strikes that have been carried out so far, America and Israel apparently had very detailed, very precise intelligence and the kind of hardware they've used. If 30 GBU-31s were used, and in this broadcast we'll explain these bunker busters that penetrate several feet deep and then they explode, and one after the other going into the same area, which means they knew where to strike, who all would be there, how much to use, and these strikes are relentless in the past 24 hours, Sandeep.
Gaurav, what we are seeing right now in Iran is almost unprecedented. We have never seen leadership decapitation of this nature. We normally see it associated with terror outfits. Israel has done that in the past to Hezbollah, but we have never seen a nation and its leaders being taken out in this fashion. First, you have Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, and now, of course, former President Ahmadinejad. The fact is that Israel's decapitation strategy is in full flow here. They are eliminating leaders, across the board, irrespective of whether they are in power or not. Anyone who has a chance of rising up in the succession chain is being taken out. This is unprecedented, Gaurav. This has never happened in the history of the world before. So many leaders of one country being taken out by two other countries. This is almost unprecedented. And
breaking news coming in, Iran is now putting the second line of defense in place. And this is what Iran had said. They have contingencies in place. News just coming in. Iran's Foreign Minister Sayyid Abbas Araghchi, he says a new supreme leader will be chosen in the next 24 to 48 hours. These are reports that are just coming in. And senior cleric Ayatollah Ali Reza Arafi will serve as Iran's interim supreme leader following the assassination of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei in a joint US-Israeli airstrike in Tehran. What is the information that we have as of now? Ayatollah Ali Reza Arafi is 67 years old. He was born in 1959. He's a very senior figure in Iran's clerical hierarchy. Before this interim leadership role, he'd held several very critical positions, and in fact, in some cases, he held several key positions at one time. So he heads Iran's national network of Islamic seminaries. He serves as the cleric member of the Guardian Council, and he also sits on the Assembly of Experts. So along with the current president, Masoud Pezeshkian, he will now be a part of that interim governing council, where they've also brought in the Chief Justice of their courts, and they will govern. And all this very clear indications, Geeta, that Iran has a system in place. Iran always spoke that it had a system in place, Sandeep, and their systems are now taking over. It's almost clockwork. If America thought, or if Israel thought, that they will take down a leader and the regime will collapse, their second rung is in place and all war gamed.
Absolutely, Gaurav. This is the Iranian response to Israel's decapitation strategy. Now, Iran has put into place this managed continuity model where every leader knows who is going to succeed him. And in this case, they prepared for Ayatollah Ali Khamenei's death as well. This interim three-person council that you mentioned has instantly assumed all of the supreme leader's powers and duties to prevent a vacuum from taking place. Now, you mentioned Masoud Pezeshkian is, of course, there. The head of the judiciary, Mohseni Ejezi, and, of course, Ayatollah Ali Reza Arafi is part of this three-member council. They will manage the transition to ensure that there is no vacuum of power that develops in Iran after Ayatollah Ali Khamenei's death. Be aware of the fact that Ayatollah Khamenei shaped Iran's destiny over the last 4 decades almost. He's been a very powerful and a very influential leader. Everything that you're seeing in Iran today, Gaurav, whether it is the power of the IRGC, Iran's nuclear weapons program, its exporting of terror to other countries, is being the work of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. So this transition council will manage that transition to the new Ayatollah whenever he's appointed.
This is something the Americans and the Israelis may have war-gamed, but there's a point that Iran has repeatedly been making. They're a civilizational state. It's a country that runs on systems, and their systems are automatically taking over. They have an armed forces, they have a judiciary, they have a political leadership, they have a parliament, they have an elected religious leadership, and they have their Supreme Council. So following Ayatollah Ali Khamenei's killing, Ayatollah Arafi has been tasked, as of now, temporarily, he's assuming responsibilities. So there's a three-member leadership council that is preparing to oversee the transition to the next leadership. President Masoud Pezeshkian, he's called the killing a great crime. He's declared that revenge is their right, revenge is their responsibility. We get you more in this report.
West Asia is on fire. Iran has begun 40 days of national mourning after their supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, was killed in coordinated US-Israeli strikes. Iranian state media confirmed that several top security officials were also killed in the attacks, along with members of Khamenei's family, including his daughter, son-in-law and grandson. Israel claims the operation eliminated 40 Iranian commanders and wiped out what it calls Iran's terror regime leadership, including Iran's chief of army staff. Following Khamenei's death, his responsibilities have been temporarily handed over to Ayatollah Arafi. At the same time, Iran's official news agency IRNA reports that a three-member leadership council comprising of the president, the judiciary chief and a jurist from the Guardian Council will assume supreme authority until a new leader is chosen. President Masoud Pezeshkian has condemned the killing as a great crime, declaring 7 days of public holiday in addition to the 40-day mourning period. He says revenge is Iran's legal right and duty. Crowds have poured into Tehran as the country braces for further escalation. A seismic leadership change and a major military strike have put the entire region on edge. And the world is watching as the fallout from Khamenei's killing is far from over. Bureau Report, India Today.
Sirens are going off almost non-stop in Israel, and I quickly want to take you to the southern part of the country, Sderot. Sderot was one of the worst impacted areas in 2023 on the 7th of October when Hamas terrorists had hit. India Today was reporting from Sderot on the 8th and the 9th of October 2023 when Hamas terrorists were still inside this area. And Geeta Buthera now joins me from one of the bunkers in Sderot. Geeta, welcome. What's the current situation right now where you are? Is it slightly safer in the southern part of the country compared to the center and the north, or is it as bad?
So all the time we sit on the shelter. We have shelter bomb. You can see now I sit here, and today we have holiday and everything is stuck. In Bet Shemesh, it's near to the Jerusalem. We have a very big disaster because 9 people murdered because the rocket come to the house and kill the people. So you need to understand, Iran shooting civilians, not army and not nothing. All the time, Iran kill people, you know, like me, like you, it's civilians, we want to live, and it doesn't matter, you understand? So we have a member in October 7, you speak about this, when Hamas come to here in Sderot, and
Yes.
a lot of people murdering this day, but now it's different because it's more strong, you understand? Because
Yes.
people sit on the shelter bomb and the rocket come and kill a lot of people. So it's crazy. All the time you have siren and you feel stressed all the time.
So I believe there are some reports that seem to indicate that schools are shut, colleges are shut, people have been asked to stay indoors. Do we know how long will this happen?
We don't know. In Saturday, we keep Saturday and we sit in my house and we heard the siren and we understand something happened. And I have a lot of friends from Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, and a lot of building fall because the Iran shooting strong rocket. So we don't know what to do, but we believe in the prime minister because we know we need to stop the terror.
Okay.
We need to stop. We live like this a lot of years, and now your prime minister Moody come to Israel, and we make we want peace. Okay, we want to stop all the terrorists.
Fair enough. You stay safe, Geeta, for joining me here on this India Today special broadcast. Many thanks. I want to get our viewers up to speed with the latest that's happening. So Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, he was confirmed killed in a joint strike by US and Israeli military operations, planned military operations that took place in Tehran early Saturday. Iranian state media and the United States have both confirmed Ayatollah Ali Khamenei and a large number of government officials with him were killed. According to reports, both the CIA and the Mossad tracked Ayatollah Ali Khamenei for months. When they saw he was meeting his top security advisors, US President Donald Trump took the decision to fire that missile that took him out. The strike was carried out in close coordination using real-time intelligence that hit Khamenei's compound and eliminated scores of top Iranian commanders, including the key military leadership. We are told 30 GBU-31 bunker buster bombs were fired at this one location. We get you more in this report.
A seismic moment in West Asia. Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei is killed in what is being described as one of the most audacious military operations in modern West Asia history. But how did the United States and Israel pull it off? The Israeli Defense Forces released footage of the large-scale airstrikes carried out on Khamenei's compound in Tehran on Saturday. The Wall Street Journal reports Israeli fighter jets allegedly dropped 30 bombs on Khamenei's secured complex after intelligence pinpointed 3 high-level meetings. The New York Times says the Central Intelligence Agency had tracked Khamenei's movements for months, building a high-confidence profile of his routines. When intelligence confirmed that he would attend a key leadership meeting in Tehran, the information was shared with Israel. Originally planned for the night, the operation was then shifted to morning. At 9:40 a.m. Tehran time, missiles struck the compound while senior defense officials were inside. Officials described it as a rare, unique window executed in broad daylight once his presence was confirmed. Meanwhile, the Washington Post reported that Donald Trump faced intense pressure from Israel and Saudi Arabia, with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman urging decisive action and strikes against Iran. An airstrike executed with precision has changed the course of history. The world watches as Iran and West Asia face an uncertain path. With Geeta Mohan and Pranay Upadhyay, Bureau Report, India Today.
I want to get you the other big story. India Today now gets you the inside story of how Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was tracked and killed. So in the final hours, after the Geneva talks failed, Oman's foreign minister flew to Washington, D.C. He met with US Vice President J.D. Vance on Friday, and that was a last-ditch attempt to delay President Trump's final decision to carry out this operation, Epic Fury. But President Donald Trump had made up his mind. The seeds of Saturday's operation were planted actually in late December when Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visited US President Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago. Now, within days, that calculus changed. On the 14th of January, President Trump was on the verge of ordering strikes, 14th of January. But last minute, he held back. He ordered a massive military build-up in West Asia first, and then started planning joint operations with Israel on how to go about with a much wider scope. The scope of these operations much wider than the 12-day operation in June last year. That time the aim was to ensure that they don't make a nuclear bomb. Iran does not make nuclear weapons this time. It was indirectly ensure a regime change. And I want to bring in Rohit Sharma for more on this. Rohit, you've scooped up exclusive details through your conversations at the Pentagon and the State Department. What more can you add about the planning and the final decision to pull the plug?
I think what this highlights, Gaurav, is it obviously highlights the capability that the U.S. has with Mossad, the intelligence agency in the U.S. and the Israelis. It also highlights the fact that Benjamin Netanyahu flew in to Washington D.C. On 12th of February, convincing the president that this is an opportunity and they should strike. Also tells you that president was confused. He wanted to go for an all-out attack in January. He held back. He wanted to give diplomacy a chance. And then when they realized, and when I say they, as in the president, his son-in-law, and Ambassador Witkoff, when they realized that there's no way they can have a deal with Iran, they had flown into Geneva knowing that the US would actually take a military action against Iran. They did this a decoy trip to Switzerland, making them believe that the US was still interested in seeking a diplomatic solution, but knowing fully aware that the the President of the United States, was going to move ahead with ordering military strikes. So I think a decision was made much earlier than it was led on. They also wanted to make sure that Khamenei, does not get any hint of U.S. planning an attack. So making sure that Ambassador Witkoff flies to Geneva, his son-in-law Jared Kushner flies to Geneva, ensuring that Iranians believe that the U.S. was giving them a chance, but they were planning an attack. And as soon as Khamenei convened with his diplomats who flew back from Geneva, he was having this meeting, the US and the Israelis attacked and took out Khamenei. So I think that's the behind the scenes story of how all this unfolded, Gaurav.
David Matlin now joins us on this broadcast from Israel. Dr. Tara Kartas, former director of the National Security Council. Pinak Ranjan Chakravarti has served as a deputy chief of mission in Israel. Lieutenant General D.P. Pandey is former Kashmir Corps commander. I want to welcome all our guests on this special broadcast. And David, I want to understand from you, was this always to go this way? Take out the top leadership on day one, decapitate the entire military leadership, and then expect a regime change. According to Israel and America, is it moving as per plan from the information you've been able to gather?
Yeah, this has obviously been a very effective opening day and a half of this campaign, going straight at the very top of the leadership in the IRGC's structure, obviously starting with the supreme leader himself, and really the top 40 at least of these commanders, some of whom have been crafting Iranian currency for decades, major pillars, figures in the long-term political posture of the Islamic Republic are now gone, really striking. So this was an incredible opening salvo to this conflict, an effective one, and I think it sets the tone for really where this is all going to go from here. The Israeli Air Force, not to mention the Americans and CENTCOM, have now said sort of stage one of the campaign is complete in terms of playing the road, essentially gaining control over the skies.
Stay with me, David. There's more breaking news that's just coming in. The U.S. Central Command has just issued a big statement saying an Iranian Corvette has been hit by U.S. forces during the start of Operation Epic Fury. The ship is currently sinking to the bottom of the Gulf of Oman at the Chabahar pier. Chabahar, remember, was a port that was being handled very extensively by India. So, as the president said, members of Iran's armed forces, the IRGC and the police must lay down their weapons and abandon ship. That's a huge statement that's coming in from the United States of America. General Pandey, a Corvette has been stuck, though it's not a very large ship, but the fact also remains Iran predominantly is a coastal navy. It has fast attack crafts and corvettes, not aircraft carriers. So a major blow to Iran close to Chabahar.
Yes, what has happened is that Iran, while it was planning to close down Hormuz, and the threat was on since yesterday by IRGC, and they tried to strike, they have struck an Omani ship already in, near the Strait of Hormuz before it was entering that location. I think this was a logical conclusion because Chabahar is one place from where their exports of oil could have continued while they were engaged and trying to shut down Strait of Hormuz. This closure and this strike tells the Iranians that your business as usual for running the energy outside your country is not going to work. So that is a very, very big statement. While you try and close down Strait of Hormuz, technically bringing down the entire world to a grinding halt in terms of energy being pumped and which is required by the world, you cannot continue to sell energy which is through the black market or anywhere. Because
So
what
let me
Israel
bring
has
in
done,
Dr. Tara Kartha, because Dr. Tara Kartha, it was actually the worst fear that the Strait of Hormuz could be shut down. When we started this bulletin, we were speaking about a skylight, a tanker that was targeted. So the Strait of Hormuz, if that becomes non-operational, that's a huge crisis that Iran has been able to inflict on the world.
Oh, yes, it is. I think after all, that was their threat all along. I mean, this is not a surprise. They said that that's what they would do. They've got, if you see the map of that area, they've got anti-ship missiles, they've got the works along that strait. They've already, I mean, they in fact, they hit, I think, one of their own shadow ships earlier. But I'm just wondering, I don't know much about this. I'd be happy to be educated.
Okay.
There is Iran-China railway. Okay, so if the oil is going via that rail, I don't know, but certainly trains have moved between China and Iran. China, as you know, is one of the largest buyer of
Oil importer,
Chinese oil.
yes.
I mean, Iranian oil. But I'm willing to be educated on this. I know the railway is there. I know it's operative. What is going on that? I'm not too sure.
But because Sandeep, sinking of a Corvette and sinking of a Corvette off Chabahar is a very major signal that CENTCOM or the Central Command is trying to send out at a time when Skylight has been hit, a mid-sized refueling tanker has been hit in the Strait of Hormuz.
It's a message, Gaurav, that the US is sending out to Iran that we know where all your ships are and we're going to target them one by one. The Corvette that was sunk, the Iranian Corvette that was moored, as you mentioned, in Chabahar. Chabahar is the only port that Iran has which is which is not bottled up in the Persian Gulf. It is on the Arabian Sea, and it's a strategic port. It's a port that India has looked at very keenly over the last couple of decades. But the fact is that Iran has a very weak navy, Gaurav. It is primarily speedboats, it's coastal defense craft, corvettes. It has very few ocean-going warships because, the geography, the maritime geography does not favor Iran that much. It can only operate ships of this displacement and size, because of the shallow Persian Gulf that they are in. Very few ocean-going ships. They have very few submarines as well. So all of their naval forces are primarily focused in and around their coastal waters to project power, to primarily try and interdict shipping in the Gulf, Persian Gulf, the Straits of Hormuz, shut the Straits of Hormuz, and if possible, carry out a few operations into the Arabian Sea. But primarily a coastal navy, very weak, very vulnerable, not a match to the United States Navy, which is there in full strength as we speak, Gaurav.
Ambassador Chakravarti, as we look at the situation as it stands right now, have the US and Israel been able to send across that message, or is there cause for grave concern the manner in which Iran continues to strike, and we are looking at protests in different parts of the world?
Yes, the protests on the streets in Islamic countries is going to happen. I mean, you see it next door in Pakistan, and because it's the Islamic card, the Islamic solidarity that will be played up, so that Iran gets some support. As you can, in Karachi, for example, the U.S. consulate has been attacked by Pakistanis, and there's been a lot of violence in Lahore also. So this is going to happen, but how much in which country is, of course, remains to be seen, and whether it has any effect on the actual conflict arena. So I think what is happening today is that Iran probably will realize that either it fights to the bitter end or it comes back to the negotiating table. But here they are also now wary of the negotiating table because, after all, talks were going on. And I think the talks were leading somewhere. And suddenly the strikes happened because I think Israel wanted, didn't want an agreement, basically. You remember that Israel had opposed the JCPOA also, which Trump in his first term had abrogated. So I think probably the Israelis convinced the Americans that let's try. I mean, the agreement is not going to lead anywhere. because Iran will keep some capabilities, although Iran may have agreed to tone down, uranium development, etc. So I think the final card was, played by the Israelis, who really wanted the strikes and to decimate whatever military and other things that Iran has.
Because when you spoke of protests that are taking place at multiple locations, what is happening right now? There are protests that are taking place in different parts of the world. You spoke of Tehran. We'll show you images of that rage in Karachi, in Lahore. The Shia world is erupting. There's grief, but there's also fury. What could this lead to? We'll talk about that, but first, this report.
Iran is reliving the ghosts of 1979, the revolution that reshaped the nation. Now, history trembles again. The man who led the Islamic Republic for more than 3 decades is dead. Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was killed in precision strikes by Israel and the United States. The country is on the brink. Grief, fury, and fire on the streets. At Anglab Square, black-clad mourners gathered with portraits and prayers. At the shrine of Hazrat Masomeh, thousands thronged the holy complex. In Karbala, devotees assembled at the Imam Hussein shrine for solemn rituals, all marking the commencement of a 40-day-long mourning period in Iran. But grief has turned to rage within the Shia community now. Across cities, chants of death to America and death to Israel echoed through the streets. In Isfahan, protesters warned they're watching the skies, vowing revenge and promising a long fight. In Qom, state television showed mourners framing the killing as an assault on Iran's sovereignty. The anger has spilled beyond Iran. In Karachi, a furious mob surrounded the United States Consulate General. Stones were hurled, roads were blocked, police fired tear gas. Local reports claim multiple casualties in the clashes, with dozens injured as the US military stepped in to quell the protests.
UN office को आग लगा दिया गया है, ये आपको दिखा रहे हैं इस वक्त.
In Baghdad and Nasiriyah, crowds called it martyrdom, warning of retaliation across the Shia world. Closer home, protests against the US and Israel erupted across Jammu and Kashmir, Delhi and Bengaluru.
Behind me is the iconic clock tower, and as you could be seeing around me, there are thousands of mourners who have assembled here. They are protesting peacefully, but lot of anger, lot of resentment against Israel and the United States. Once the news of his death came, it was clear that the fallout will not only be felt in Iran, but there will be ripples across. People from the Muslim community and especially from the Shia community will come out on the streets, not just in Iran, but everywhere.
Over thousands of persons who have gathered here. They're from Shia community. Not just they are condemning the ongoing airstrikes in Iran, Tehran, but also condoling the death of Imam Khamenei. They are saying that both countries, Israel and USA, are trying to harass Shia community.
While in Lucknow, the Shia community announced 3 days of mourning. And yet, the picture is still divided. In the Iranian city of Karaj and among sections of the Iranian diaspora abroad, videos show celebrations, scenes of a very different reaction. A nation mourning, a region on the edge, a world watching what comes next. West Asia stands at a dangerous crossroads. Bureau Report, India Today.
News just coming in, the US government has just confirmed 3 US servicemen were killed in action and 5 were seriously wounded as part of CENTCOM's Operation Epic Fury. There are several others who've sustained minor shrapnel injuries and concussions is the information that's coming in. Some of the soldiers who received minor injuries are in the process of returning to duty. Major combat operations continue. Our response effort is ongoing, says the CENTCOM in a statement that has just been issued. The CENTCOM statement, which is the United States Central Command, the US CENTCOM in a statement has said the situation is fluid. So out of respect for the families, we will withhold additional information, including the identities of the fallen warriors, until the next 24 hours after the next of kin have been notified. I want to once again bring in David Matlin, who joins us from Israel on this. David, fatalities already on the American side and the Israeli side would indicate that Iran has the wherewithal to fight and fight back hard. Dr. Tara Kartha, 5 service personnel injured, 3 have been killed. The war has just started. You see intensification of operations in the days ahead?
I don't see that it's going to come down at all. There is no way. So the President Trump's antipathy for any body bags is well known. They wouldn't, one can hardly blame him. But then this is now looks like it's going to get out of control, which I was just going to say earlier. Don't forget there are Shias in Saudi Arabia. There are Shias in Bahrain. There are Shias and for Khamenei is their leader as well. So this is not over by a long chalk. Second,
General Pandey, there's more breaking news coming in. B-2 bombers are now dropping 2,000 pounders. 2,000 pound bombs are being dropped at missile sites. This happens just minutes after the US announces 3 US service personnel have been killed. This does point to massive intensification of operations after the first 24 hours, because if people thought that US has achieved part of the aim, it does appear this is intensifying. 2,000 pound bombs being dropped on missile sites as we speak.
Yeah.
General Pandey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Okay. You're looking for a response. Let me just start firstly about this issue of when the de-escalation will take place and why the scaling up is being done. We have not even gone 36 hours into this kind of an operation which is happening to start looking at de-escalation when even partial military objectives and none of the political military objectives, none of the political objectives have been met. Right. So currently the military objective will be to defang IRGC, Iran, of the military capabilities. The political objective will be to ensure there is a decent regime which is modern, and that is the aim, right? A popular regime. I'm sure the Americans will have some card up their sleeve which will come about on some time. I will just quickly rewind back for about 8 months back, Gaurav, when Operation Lion Rise was launched by Israelis. Midnight Hammer followed through in between for a period of time. There were a couple of things which happened at moment of time. Khamenei's location was known. The president's location was known. The top leadership were not all neutralized in terms of political leadership was left alone. The religious supreme command leader was left alone. But what was being done was possibly to carry out a test bed to know exactly how mobilization takes place in Iran, where how the command control will work, how the systems will move around. Oh, by the way, while doing so, if we can actually strike out the nuclear assets, maybe we will think about the same. But actually, the nuclear thing could not be foreclosed. Their entire ballistic missile program could not be defanged 100%. It was only delayed to a point. So last about 8 months, I'd rather not say 8 months, it was a call to be taken for 6 months in which talks will happen. A just ad ballum will be created to have a reason to go beyond for carrying out an operation in which the entire world follows through. And
so very clearly now, Ambassador Chakravarti, the last 30 seconds that I have on this part of the show, I want to understand, we see further intensification of operations, and which means the region will remain in tailspin for quite some time, it seems.
Yes, definitely. I think we can expect another, certainly a few more days, perhaps weeks of this kind of bombing, etc. Because, if you want to achieve if you have kept some objectives in view, one of them is, of course, you have achieved by the leadership, killing of the leader. But then it's not really regime change because the regime remains the same. You only get a new leader, and I don't think that will really meet the objectives of the Americans and the Israelis.
So we're just getting into this real intense phase of operations as Fort B-2 bombers have targeted underground Iranian ballistic missile sites with dozens of 2,000-pound ground penetrator bombs, and this actually does indicate that this war is intensifying. We'll continue to report. A while back, I caught up with Israel's ambassador to India, who's currently in Jerusalem, Ambassador Reuven Azar. Listen in to our conversation. And joining me now on this India Today special broadcast from Jerusalem is Ambassador Reuven Azar, Israel's ambassador to India, currently in Israel in connection with Prime Minister Narendra Modi's recent visit to Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. Ambassador Azar, welcome. What's the latest that you can tell me about the situation in Israel?
Thank you for this interview. In Israel, we are still, being targeted by retaliation of the Iranian forces. There have been sirens roaring all across Israel, especially in the Tel Aviv area, but also here in Jerusalem recently. Israel is continuing with its operation together with the United States because we are determined to completely neutralize the Iranian's regime military nuclear program and the ballistic missile program, so they cannot ever pose a threat on Israel again.
So, Ambassador, what was the immediate threat to launch this strike, the Roaring Lion and Epic Fury, at a time when Oman was saying that Iran had agreed to an endgame, Iran had agreed to IAEA looking at the nuclear, uranium enriched material, and they didn't want, they were willing to fulfill all the conditions. What was the requirement for an offensive, sir?
Well, the United States has gotten to the conclusion that Iran, again, is trying to play for time and to drag the negotiations. It was refusing to accept the demands of the United States, and therefore the United States decided to stop the negotiations and opt for military action. As to the timing of the action, I think we had to wait until we get an operational opportunity. The strike was approved by the Israeli cabinet only 2 days after the good and amazing visit of Prime Minister Modi ended. Of course, we were in alert all these few weeks, as you know, but we couldn't have known until Saturday morning that indeed this operation was going to happen when it happened.
So now that information is that Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has been killed, we are told 40 top leaders have been killed. Who, in your appreciation, is running Iran, and what is the end game of US and Israeli action?
Well, what we've heard this morning is that his son, Mujtaba, was appointed to lead Iran at this point. But what we would like to do, in addition to neutralizing the existential military threats emanating from Iran, is that Iran changes its policy. And in order for it to change the policy, there are two options. Either this leadership changes course, or the Iranian people embrace this moment and decide to topple this regime. We are not going to do it for them. It's up to the Iranian people to decide, but we certainly hope, as Prime Minister Netanyahu has declared, and also President Trump declared, that the Iranian people, with the backwind they are getting from us, they will embrace this moment and change the future of the country for the better and get rid of this oppressive, radical, theocratic, and fanatical regime.
So, am I understanding this correctly? You're saying that a regime change operation is technically not the aim. Getting Iran to abandon its nuclear program is, and if the current leadership or the current regime is also following what America and Israel and other countries want, you're okay with it? Is that what we have to understand?
Well, it's not just the military nuclear program. As I told you, there is also the ballistic missile program, which is immense and that actually was producing hundreds of ballistic missiles per month and was in itself an existential threat for the state of Israel. There's also the support of Iran to their proxies, all these terrorist organizations that were getting huge support from Iran, not just financial, but also in terms of technology, in terms of the means to produce ballistic missiles. So that's very important to neutralize. In addition to that, we are giving the Iranian people the chance to embrace this moment. We are not sure it's going to happen, but we certainly hope it does.
Sir, tell me this, did you anticipate, were you apprehensive that this war will expand in the manner in which it did, that Dubai and Abu Dhabi would be targeted? The Al Udeid Air Base in Bahrain was targeted, in Qatar was targeted even earlier, but Bahrain being targeted, Kuwait being targeted, Erbil in Iraq being targeted, was all of this anticipated?
Well, it's completely up to the Iranian regime. We didn't choose to attack these places. These places were attacked by the Iranian regime. They will have to suffer the consequences of that. I think it's completely outrageous the way in which they have been behaving in the past and also now. It shows how responsible this regime is and how urgent it is to actually remove it from the map of West Asia.
How long do you think these operations will continue? What's happening right now? I believe the Israeli forces and the American forces are bombing Tehran, Isfahan, Qum, and other parts of Iran even now. What are you targeting, sir?
Well, as Prime Minister Netanyahu has declared yesterday, we are targeting more than 2,500 military targets, and this operation will continue. It will take time. It doesn't get done in a day or two. It has a potential to continue for weeks.
Is Iran have the wherewithal to strike back for weeks? Are you trying to ensure, as President Trump said, that Iran does not have any navy left, any missiles left, any missile making capabilities left? Or are you going to make it so weak that there will be a revolution from within and this regime is removed? Is that what your end game is, sir?
First of all, we have to see, when you compare this operation to the operation Roaring Lion, to the operation Rising Lion back in April, this operation is with a much wider scope. While the previous one only targeted these two programs that I've told you about, the current operation deals with the entire capability of the Iranian regime when it comes to military, when it comes to Basij and Navy, as you said, and other Air Force bases, etc. So it will be more comprehensive, and it bears the potential to encourage the Iranian people to take action against the regime. And this is certainly what we are hoping for.
Does Iran continue to dominate the Strait of Hormuz, and is that a major threat? And Houthi rebels in Yemen targeting sea lanes of communication, does that remain one of the biggest challenges for the United States and Israel in your appreciation?
It is a challenge. However, I think that as time goes by, the capability of the Iranians to create damage will be degraded substantially. So we have to be patient. We have to wait until the military forces of the United States and Israel do their job. And when they're done, you're probably going to see much less of a threat on the Straits of Hormuz.
Ambassador Reuven Azar, Israel's ambassador to India, currently in Jerusalem, for joining me here on this India Today special broadcast. Many thanks.
Thank you.